So now we are going to make sharp edges on the buttercream cake. I have the pitch red buttercream made and it's ready. And I also have the cake layered and cling wrapped and ready. So that's all butter cake. And you can check for the height of each of the layers. And then there's buttercream filled inside in the layers. You could choose to have buttercream as per your taste of how much you want to add in your filling. That's according to each of your preferences. Okay, and as for pre-preps, I have the most important part which you've already learned how to do that in the ganache sharp edges lesson. So there are two acrylic boards, and I'm not having the board with a hole because this is going to be a single tier cake. In case you're going to do this to a cake that will be in the middle or the top tiers, then obviously you should have a hole in the middle of the board. And now one of the board is cling wrapped, and this is the side which will go touching on the cake, and this will be the top board as well. And then other than these two boards, there is another board which is a bigger board, and that will be my working board where my scraper will go and touch. Okay, so this is also done, and there's the turntable and the anti-slip mat on top. I'm just going to place the working board. It is not going to move. And I'm just going to get in some buttercream, just softening it up, apply a bit, and place one of the acrylic board on top of that. Okay, and now this is going to come on top after I'm going to place in the layers. I'm just going to release the sponge, take it out. So the layers are here. I'm just going to remove the cling wrap and then place it on the board. Just trying to keep it in the center of this board at the bottom. Now you know the diameter of this cake and the diameter of the board has to be measured before placing it here, and the board should be 1 centimeter bigger than the diameter of the cake. I'm just going to remove the OHP sheet. So we have the layers here beautifully done. So in the ganache cake, your previous lesson, you might have seen how the layers have been built without having to use the acrylic rings. You could do that when you have the fillings which are like quite simple, like all ganache, and ganache is not going to kind of ooze out as you're going to build the layers. And however, whenever there is a time when you have to use like perishable filling, and then if the filling is like too soft, and if you have the fear that it is going to ooze out and stuffs, then you have to definitely use the layers set in rings and then put it back when you're going to do the actual frosting on the cake. Okay, so now before placing the top board, so the top board is the cling wrapped one, right? I'm just going to place it on top. So before which the top of the cake should have a considerable amount of the cream that I will be using in the same color of my frosting. So you add as much you think that will just cover the top. Just level it up as much possible. And then top of this we just need to place the top board with the wrapped side upside down, and then just shake it up a bit. Then after this stage we need two scrapers, and because the cake is tall I have two of them. Okay, and I'm just going to use that, and we just need to align the boards. So I'm just going to use both the scrapers and push. I'm going to place the scraper here on the working board and then go hit both the boards at the top and the bottom on both sides, and push it from both the sides, right? Push as much that the scraper will touch the boards. Now if not, push it against the pressure you have on either side. The scraper should touch both the boards, and then try not to be pushing it from different angles. It just needs to be right opposite. So keep turning in few sections and then just press. And this board alignment is important, so you have a proper cylindrical shape. Okay, so my boards are aligned. Just going to go on and then remove this excess here. So now we know the top board and the bottom boards are aligned, and now we just need to ensure the top is straight. So you know what we need to do is the spirit level test, for which we just need a bit of open, because if you're going to place it on the cling wrap, then maybe the surface is not flat, and the turntable also may not be straight. So picking it up from the turntable and placing it on the table, working. So next thing that you need is spirit level, and that could be an app. So now if you are using a spirit level app, the number whatever shows it just changes based on where you're just placing it. And now I see a 2.6 on the X and a 0.8 on the Y. So now place it on the table in which cake is there, and then click on the calibrate button, and then just get to 0 0, reset it to 0 0 on this table. And now after it's calibrated on the surface, just put it on top of the cake and make sure the cling wrap is not below the cake. You can put the cling wrap back on, but when placing it on the board, you just want the phone to be on the board. Okay, so now I see a 0.2 and a 0.8. I'm just going to try and see which side will take me to 0. That's a minus 0.2 and a plus 0.2. Now that's a 0.0 and a 0.2. So you have a 0.2 and a 0.4, which is fine for us to just stop and then keep the cake out. Just getting the turntable again. I'm going to place the whole thing on top of the turntable, and now I'm ready to start working on the sides. So after which is Quite a similar method of how you've done for the ganache cake. Now, if spreading is easier, you could choose to use your silicone spatula or your offset metal spatula as well. So for buttercream, unlike whipping cream, instead of just going through the entire sides, for buttercream it's important because it will start crusting by the time you've applied here and then to finish the entire thing and come, and then if you start scraping, you're going to have a lot of air bubbles. So what we are going to do on board to board method, just going to go part by part, and it is very important that you do not apply the cream all throughout the sides of the cake. I'm just going to apply the buttercream. Try not to touch the cake. Then if you've layered it, you won't catch crumbs. I'm just going to add extra because anyway I'm just going to scrape it out. Okay, now I'm just going to have a bowl of water, hot water, and every time I prefer to go and scrape the cake with a wet scraper. Just dripping of the water, and then make sure to hit the working board and then go hit both the boards on the sides and then just scrape. Okay, now what we need to check whether the board on the top edge is seen or is it hidden. So that's the check that you need to give for yourself. And if we are having any bigger air pockets. Now again on the working board flat, and then go hit and scrape through and check if you have the bottom board and the top board seen through properly. I'm just going to scrape it up again. And now the places where I see the scraper has not touched, I'm going to add in more cream. I'm picking up more cream. So here you can see there are air bubbles. So wherever the scraper is not touched, you have to just go in there and then just fix that part and then scrape again. Okay, so one side is clean now. I'm just going to go on to the next section here. Apply the buttercream board to board. I'm dripping the water and then scraping it again. Now what do we see? Top board edge should be cleared up, and I also see some bigger air pockets here. So I'm dropping the scraper every time back into the bowl of the hot water as I am working with a spatula with a cream. And that should be it. A bit here, and now I'm just going to go on and scrape it again, board to board. Was it clean? Are you seeing the top edge board? There's a little bit of the board that's hidden with the buttercream, so I'm just going to scrape it one more time. Now is it clean? So it looks good. I'm moving on to the next section. I'm just going to finish this last section altogether, like it's my third section and the last. So each time just clean your scraper and catch up some hot water. So I'm just going to scrape. So I'm going to find places where there is air bubble. Now scrape again. And check for the top board whether it is clean. All these textures we can just remove by scraping it with a hot scraper now. I'm just going to find like smaller air pockets now. So the sides are done. So now moving on to the next step, we know that this needs to go into the freezer 2 hours, and once it is all completely set, then we'll come back to remove the top board and then just level the top and then finish making this sharp edges buttercream. So now the cake is out of the freezer. It's been freezing for about an hour. You can see it's like quite cold and firm. I'm going to remove the top board first. So opening up the cling wrap on top. And just lifting the board. Just leave the cling wrap on the cake and lift just the board. Now peeling it off. Now we'll just be fixing the top. I have some of the buttercream, the same color. I'm just going to use that to fill the dents on the top. The cake would be quite firm, and just the cream that we are using now will just move around softly for us to work on the top. Just go into all the dents and then fill it with the buttercream. And by doing this, you just need to be sure that the cake is like really very firm, because on the sides we're just extending and then putting the buttercream on the sides of the cake as well, right? Now we should be using the scraper to scrape the sides, and by that time, if the cream on the sides is kind of quite soft, then your scraper will be scraping off too much excess buttercream. You don't want that. Just going to run the scraper very gently the sides. And then on this top, I'm just going to gently cut the excess. Now on the top, I just need some hot scraper so the spatula marks are not going to be there on the top. I'm just going to get the scraper hot and just run it over on the top. So now we have the sharp edges buttercream cake that we just completed with sharp edges, and now I'll meet you in the next lesson where I'm going to do the palette knife petals on this cake and catch you in that lesson.